So let's talk about soccer. It's a global phenomenon. You see it's a more bigger deal of the MLS building new soccer stadiums, a lot of money being poured in. Let's talk about the general nature of soccer, or as it's globally known as football.
Right. That's very interesting. We often get a lot of inquiries and assumptions that we're doing a lot in soccer, football, just because there's so many, foreign athletes that do it. We have leagues in the United States, and it just kind of, makes sense to go into. We are now starting to do a lot more in it than we did a couple years ago. And the real reason is because the MLS is shaped differently from other leagues, to where all the visas really come through the MLS itself, and then the players go out from there. So, unless you have that relationship directly with the MLS, they've have their attorneys in place. It's just kind of an upward hill battle to get direct work with those athletes that are, coming in. And then with the minor leagues, they've been doing it for a while. So there's special rules for minor leagues to where it's very easy to get P1 visas. So we just didn't see a lot there. But we are seeing an increased activity with coaches do some things.
Yeah, so talk a little bit about the client here, Julio Saez, who's a coach. Talk about him.
Yeah, right. We just had a great approval for Julio, who's a coach at the junior national team level, and had a lot of experience with some of the better clubs in the Middle East, and also some in Europe. So kind of to go back and see how we got here is, there was actually a situation where a lot of soccer coaches were being brought under what's called the H-2B program, which is for seasonal workers. And then that became a little bit problematic. And then there was another situation where there was a lot of soccer coaches being brought in on P1S essential support staff. And that ended up getting a federal investigation where people had to go to jail, actually. So for us, what we introduce is the O1A option, which is the thing that we do for a lot of our better athletes. Like we talk about a lot of champions we do, but it's an excellent opportunity for coaches to get 3 years of approval and work authorization that's extendable, and be able to do a lot of things, whether it's make seminars, work at different clubs, to do individual private clinics. They could even write books. They can make t-shirts. There's a lot you can do with this O1A, but it's not for everybody. It's really for the kind of the top tier, and it has to be argued very, very carefully. It's not uncommon for just our support letters to be over 50 pages when we are trying to get these O1As done for the soccer coaches.
Let's talk about the general nature of future clients that are looking at this. What is the general process as far as the time frame of how these things work?
Right. So there's 2 filing options available. And this is the response time from the government. If you're doing regular processing on O1, a typical wait time for a response is 2 to 4 months. The filing fee for that at this time is $460. And if you have the resources, you can do premium processing, which is for another $2,500. The government will make responses within 15 days on the petition. And then from there, if you're outside the country, the person will have to consular process, which means once their visa is approved, they still have to go to a consulate outside the United States to get their passport applied with the visa for admission into the United States. And depending on where that is and what's going on during COVID, that was ridiculous. And sometimes it was just flat out impossible. But we did some impossible heavy lifting during COVID that taught us a lot about how to be proficient with consular processing.
So now you specifically work with coaches, but just looking more of a future projection. Do you, I know some of the leagues have their own attorneys and things of that nature. Do you see trainers?
So no, we actually are getting a lot of heat now to get visas for athletes. I think since the Biden administration has come in on the employment-based side of visas, it's gotten tougher. And we've got calls just last week for situations where the team wants a player, but they're like, we'll sign the player once they get their visa. So the foreign manager, for example, in London will call me and say, hey, Sherrod, can you get a visa because this guy has an opportunity? And we say, yes, we can. So we specialize in doing visas for unsigned athletes so that they have the flexibility to compete for multiple teams on that same visa. So even if you don't have the contract yet, if somebody can show that there's interest in that player, a lot of times we can get them approved for a multi-year P1 even before they sign their contract. And it seems as it gets harder to get these P1 visas, more managers and teams are going to try to, more teams are going to try to pass that responsibility to the athlete to secure their own visa and then come in and play. So we're looking at soccer being an increasingly important market for us, not just with coaches, but also with the players on the pitch.
And you're specifically referring to our minor leagues, the team and clubs, things of that nature, right?
Right. Yeah. So this one, we're probably looking at the tier 2 and the tier 3 options because, you know, the MLS is a major league. And when you have a major league, there's certain type of exceptions and rules that make it very straightforward to get to P1. It's very hard to mess up, you know, but when you are unsigned and you're dealing with the minor leagues, that's when you have to get nuanced and know what you're doing to get consistent results with USCIS.
So, Journal, just wrap up. Why should folks pay attention to soccer? Why do you see that as a global phenomenon and a growing entity in the United States?
Well, I'll tell you this. I was in London about a month ago, and I went for some fights with Cage Warriors and UFC London. But on that Tuesday, there was a whole conference at Tottenham Stadium, the Spurs, and almost everybody there, all they wanted to talk about was soccer. It is big business, the TV money there, the contracts that the players are getting, you know, everything from the video games, the esports, it's huge. I think it's still the biggest sport in the world. So you got to pay attention if you're serious about sports.
So with that being said, the context, Sherrod Seward, sports attorney, as the sport of soccer continues to grow larger in the United States, look to get more folks, coaches and players on the pitch.
Let's get on the pitch.
All right.